Welcome to DLD Why Can't You See Me podcast, and it is Speak Up for DLD Awareness Day special. So, a voice that should be heard. I was a child whose voice was never heard, a child who struggled to use their words, a child who missed or didn't see, a child who relied on others to advocate for me, a child that others always doubt, a child that was always left out, a child who others would tease, a child who only wanted to please, a child who battled with daily difficulties, a child filled with insecurities, a child with missed opportunities, a child with hidden disabilities, a child they thought that would never go far, a child who is still healing from that scar, a child who still has abilities, a child filled with possibilities, a child who has so much to say, a child who communicates in their own way, a child who loves and wants to play, a child who learns in a different way, a child whose ideas are brilliant, a child who learned how to be resilient, a child who is capable and far from stupid, a child who deserves to be included, a child who you should fight for, a child who should not be ignored. Every child should be seen and heard.
I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a bird, gonna drown a man. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me.
So, I am Shelby. I am an adult with dyslexia, developmental language disorder, and short-term memory. I am a RADLD ambassador and a phasic ambassador, and I am an author. I was diagnosed with dyslexia towards the end of secondary school due to my parent being diagnosed first, and then all the siblings are dyslexic. And I was diagnosed with DLD 4 years ago now. So, as we all know, it is very important to unpick a child's needs, as all behaviour is a form of communication. I received so many comments and labels saying I was shy, quiet, loud, rude, not trying hard, and that I was daydreaming. And I was always told off for not completing the work on time or haven't done enough. So I have always felt that there was something wrong with me, but I didn't know what it was. So I thought, is it just me? Does everyone struggle like this? The common things I hear was, it's just a delay. You will grow out of it. But obviously, it wasn't just a delay. So, what was I like as a child? Oh, I was cheeky. I mumbled my words and obviously point to things that I wanted, lots of energy. And then whenever people didn't understand me or what I was trying to say, I would stomp my feet. So obviously I have always had these difficulties as a child, and even now I still struggle to get my words out. So this is my speech and language report as a child, and obviously when I was at university, I requested this, so it was actually more interesting to look at now, and it all makes sort of sense. Oh yeah, about expressive below, and then categories, naming and everything like that. So with my school reports, obviously they always said I was polite, kind, sense of humour, empathy towards others, practical, and then the difficulties that I noticed, that what we looked at was these, and this is very interesting and makes sort of sense. And obviously I was trying really hard. Obviously I feel like they had some understanding of the difficulties, but didn't know it was my DLD and my dyslexia at the time. So growing up, misunderstood. So like in primary school, secondary school, college, university, and now. As I mentioned, I have always struggled throughout and all through each stages and transitions, and obviously I still struggle now. I feel like I did have some support through each stage. Primary school, I remember I had low reading books, and I did have speech therapy, but obviously that stopped. And then secondary school, I became more aware of the difficulties and obviously the unkind comments and friendships. And I remember having extra English support, and then obviously extra GCSE support every Saturday before our exams. But I feel like it wasn't until I went to uni that I had the most support for my dyslexia, and so I had all the extra support of the tutoring, the study skills, the equipment, and I had someone going on placement with me. So now as an adult, I still struggle, and I don't think people understand how hard it is to live with DLD and how exhausting it is, especially having to tell everyone and explain everyone you meet what DLD is, because I feel like it's easier to say, oh, I have dyslexia, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, we know about that. And there's not really much support for adults with DLD, but fingers crossed that can change. And okay, so with this one, it was what I wish teachers knew. So I like to be sort of creative and doing all these little images, and these are just some of the thoughts that I was thinking or feeling inside. So like, we are not lazy, language is hard, I forget easily, I do listen, and just making sure that teachers know that they are important to be able to help us get all the support and sort of our potential, and obviously with the help to spread awareness. So I know there's that conversation about label versus no label. Obviously there is pro so with that, I know that obviously what the things about how it feels about not being diagnosed versus what the difference is being diagnosed. My personal view is growing up feeling misunderstood was probably more damaging than not having a diagnosis, because it wasn't until I got the diagnosis that I did get support, well, especially for the dyslexia. Because obviously I spent years questioning myself, like, is there something wrong with me? I had low self-esteem, confidence, negative thoughts, or like that self-image. So when I was diagnosed with DLD, obviously it was such a relief, with a lot of mixed emotions, which has impacted me positively, that how I view myself now. So I know obviously you have to be mindful about a diagnosis, but I think it's about the purpose, because I know that there's the concerns about over-diagnosing, misdiagnosing, then under. So I know that debate. So obviously thinking of how it felt when I wasn't diagnosed, these were some of the feelings that I thought. So that avoidance, or I'm a failure, fear of the future, I'm stupid, no one understands. But yeah. So as I said, with the diagnosis, obviously there is the cons and pros. So like the cons is like that stigma or the judgment, discrimination, but then the pros is being able to have like that access to the support, inclusion. But I would say with diagnosis and those without one, sometimes the support that you can put in place within the classroom and school or work, with those universal strategies will still help those who haven't got a diagnosis or a label. So the positives to receiving a diagnosis, these are some of the feelings that I thought. Obviously, you feel like all your needs are identified, that you feel listened to, you feel seen, that sort of positive self-acceptance, you're no longer alone, and everything like that, motivation, goals. And then yes, talking to someone else who has the same struggles as you is so important. So then, because then they obviously understand as well. So sometimes in the classroom, it can be too noisy, busy, overwhelming, distracted, bright lights, sort of sensory, nervous, or like transitions, visuals, regulating emotions, and you might just be scared to ask for help when you're struggling. Obviously, then this one is how teachers can make a difference with some of the support to put in place, about simple instructions, use of visuals, building their self-esteem and confidence, peer awareness and sort of like that acceptance, like neurodiversities, Makaton gesture, and help to advocate for them. And then obviously, as we know, that those with DLD are at greater risk of experiencing anxiety or emotional difficulties, mental health, because we tend to internalize our feelings or like struggle to understand them. So these are just some of the thoughts of things DLD and anxiety related. So like changes in the routine, the environment, why am I different? What does DLD mean? Understanding the language and situations, anxious about failure, tests, exams, time limits, being asked a question in front of everyone, or reading, and they're generally overwhelmed in school, especially if they don't feel safe or that sense of belonging or inclusion. So then, what is the difference between dyslexia and DLD? As we know that sometimes there is that overlap where you can have both conditions and they both need early sort of screening and support, and our strengths can also mask the difficulties. Yeah, so dyslexia is more of the learning disability and DLD the language. So I wished I had these support in school, these strategies of helping, so like word maps, narrative planning, task planner, word aware zones, or just emotional support, that self-awareness, self-emotion, self-regulation, visuals, fidget toys, or like the actual item, and word banks as well. Word banks, yeah. Maps. And I just wanted to say, as we know, the role of a speech and language therapist is important. Obviously, they help with the diagnosing DLD, obviously with their support, what they deliver, interventions, one-to-one. They also help to raise awareness in schools and the community, training and everything like that. So they are very important. But you can also be important because obviously this year's DLD Awareness Day is Speak Up for DLD. Obviously it's Friday the 18th of October, and we have this lovely poster that a young adult with DLD made, handmade and stitched. I don't know if you can read that poster, if it was a bit too small. But yeah, check that out. So there is loads of different ways how you can help to speak up for DLD. So you can by looking on YouTube or seeing the videos, sharing the videos on social media, RADLD posts, and then those with DLD or even families, members, or like parents with DLD, writing any stories or writing your story, or doing a small video helps to obviously make your voice be heard. And so making your voice be heard does help with, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, so we're just making sure everyone that we can sort of be heard and seen. And as we know that DLD is a neurodiversity condition, and we would love to be included widely like every other invisible condition, so everyone has that same level of awareness, so then that can lead us to have more support and a brighter sort of future. So the summary is, people with DLD are talented, they can succeed, you can make a difference, and you can play an important role for those with DLD and sort of support their lives and their challenges, and continue to speak up for DLD. Thank you.